Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. Find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, and I'm happy to have my co-host back for today, Dale. Find him over on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale. Dale, how's it going? How's the plane going?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm very excited to get going. Well, it's going well. I actually tweaked my back today, so not feeling the greatest, but hey, it's all part of it.
When they say break a knee, it's not supposed to be literal, right?
I mean, it's break a leg, but that's
Or break a
close.
leg.
Yeah.
Close enough. Knee's part of your leg, right? You can break a knee.
Yeah.
What play are you guys rehearsing for?
We were doing Ghost, like it's an
Ghost.
80s movie with Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, and Whoopi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I remember watching that movie as a kid. All right, nice. Are you the ghost?
Well, I am a ghost, but that's
all right.
It is what it is. So like you might just have to come watch it to see.
All right, fair enough. All right, so today I'm excited. We got the Dynasty quarterback rankings. Right now, we're just going to start going through our rankings because there is no news whatsoever in the NFL right now. So it is pretty dead. But we're just going to start going through some of our top 12 guys here. We're going to go through the top 6 today. Tomorrow, we're going to have 7 through 12. If we have time, and maybe this will be later on in the offseason, we'll go through the tier 2, the 13 through 24. But this does include rookies. So, even though they don't have a landing spot, it could change things up a little bit there. But, we'll see how that kind of impacts their final landing spots. I think for the most part, we all kind of have an assumption of where these quarterbacks are going at this point in time. Yep. So it's not a major question mark until the actual NFL draft. Then we're going to all be wrong and it's going to shake it all up. But, till we get there, this will do for the top 12. Any last thoughts?
I am definitely ready to get into it.
I was telling Dale, I finally got my first share of Bijan Robinson in a high dollar league. Get to pair him with Jonathan Taylor. I'm loving life right now. So loving this team so much. Fields, JT, and we'll talk about Fields here in a little bit. Probably, but Fields, JT, and Bijan is going to be fun.
Extremely.
All right, so we're going to jump right into the top 6 here, and it's a little bit different. So we're going to just kind of go through all these guys, and we're going to talk about why we have them ranked here. So we're not going to do, number 1 is this, and your number 1 is that. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see everything here. I'm pulling it up. You can see our total top 6 lists here. If you're not on audio, we'll try and be concise with it, but we'll talk about who's different in our top 6 and, just the reason why we have them ranked a little bit differently between the guys from 1 to 6. All right, so my top 6 is going to be Josh Allen at number 1, Patrick Mahomes at number 2, Jalen Hurts at number 3, Justin Herbert at 4, Joe Burrow at 5, and Lamar Jackson at 6. Dale's top 6 is going to be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. So kind of a flip-flop of the top 2 there. He's moved Joe Burrow all the way up to 3 from 5 for me. Jalen Hurts at 4 for him. Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence at 5 and 6. So he's got the young guys up here in his top 6. So Dale, floor is yours. First question is, why do you have Patrick Mahomes over Josh Allen?
Well, I honestly feel it's kind of splitting hairs between him and Allen. So I mean, you do have the rushing upside with Josh Allen, but he's been a little bit more turnover prone this past year with losing Brian Daboll. And Patrick Mahomes is just Patrick Mahomes. So
he is him.
Yeah, he is definitely him. He has really, I mean, even on his bad games, he's still throwing for over 300 yards and a couple touchdowns. So it's really, really hard to not like that and to not be excited about that because that's fantastic. I mean, I feel Allen can have these crazy run plays and in these bullet passes to Diggs on the sideline, but I feel Mahomes is the more steady guy between the two, and that's why I ranked him like that.
Fair enough. I will agree that Mahomes is just, he is special. He is very, very special. Mm-hmm. If you're in a standard 4-point passing touchdown league, Patrick Mahomes was the number 1 quarterback last year. I believe Josh Allen was probably number 2, right? So the difference in points there is about 20 points, which is actually pretty significant, but that all comes down to the fact that Patrick Mahomes had 6 more touchdowns through the air, whereas, Josh Allen had 3 more on the ground, but the rushing yardage was actually a big difference. It kept it close. Josh Allen had about 700 yards on the ground. Patrick Mahomes about 350, so about doubled him. But yeah, those touchdowns, it's hard to overcome an extra 3 touchdowns there. So it makes sense. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes is very, very good. You look at his career finishes since he became a starter: 1-7, 4-4, and 1. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, a little bit rockier road, 21 in his rookie year. Obviously, kind of struggled that year. Second year, started putting things together, finished as quarterback 8, number 1, and number 2. So, these guys are very, very good, very consistent over the last couple of years. I think the only reason I'd have Josh Allen above Patrick Mahomes, I think that they are going to try and get back to a running game at some point with Patrick Mahomes. They tried again with Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, and it just wasn't successful. They've got Isaiah Pacheco, but I could see them going pretty highly on someone like Jahmyr Gibbs in this upcoming draft, or even a Zach Charbonnet, some of these more, or my hope, Kendre Miller. Oh, let's go. That'd be so exciting. But I could just see him going for someone like that and, kind of spicing this up a little bit. No slight to Isaiah Pacheco. He's fine, but I just don't think he's what you'd call a workhorse back, right? He's not someone that you're going to want to carry the rock for you 300 plus times. He's got size. He's 5'10", 216, so he is the prototypical size, but it's hard for me to bet on a guy from Rutgers. That's all I'm saying. So I do believe that they're going to eventually try and bring that in, and Buffalo's been saying that for 3 straight years, and they have yet to do it. So I just don't believe them at this point, and yeah, I just think that the rushing upside for Josh Allen is going to carry him. If you're in a 6-point passing touchdown, that's going to kind of switch these up a little bit. I would agree with you, Mahomes over Allen, but for now, I just think that again, you are splitting hairs, definitely. These guys are probably going to finish number 1 and number 2. It's a coin flip on which one is going to be, so nothing really to say there. Now, do you have a tier break here between them and number 3?
I would say yes. I kind of feel these guys are the elite of the elite, and and these guys in the next tier are more. I think it's more like ticky tacky things that kind of put them where I put them personally. So I would probably have my next couple guys probably in the next tier after Allen and Mahomes.
Sure. So here's the biggest difference here, and I'm with you. I kind of have those top 2 guys in a tier of their own. Dynasty has really started to put Jalen Hurts up there in a tier with those guys. I don't think I would put them. I don't think I would put him up there with them, but I do believe he belongs up here. Now, yes, you're at 4 with Jalen Hurts. I'm at 3, so it's kind of, again, it's splitting hairs there a little bit. Do you have him in the same tier as Joe Burrow? Where's your next tier break? Are all these next 4 guys in the same tier?
I probably would have all these guys in the same tier. I mean, honestly, if I were to split tiers, it would be Burrow and Hurts, and then Fields and Lawrence.
That's what I was kind of thinking. That one feels a little bit more natural, but
yeah.
I
would probably have that more as my tier break, but
sure.
I think tier 2 and tier 3 are closer than tier 1 and tier 2 are, personally.
Fair enough. I definitely can see that. You have Fields at 5, which is very interesting there. But let's talk about this top tier, or this tier number 2 here. So I have Justin Herbert up here. You don't even have Justin Herbert in your top 6, which is interesting. And this is why I wanted to talk about him specifically. Now, I get it. He had a down year this last year. Don't forget, I feel like everyone looks at Justin Herbert and thinks that he under-delivered last year, and it's definitely, I've seen him slide now. Jalen Hurts has definitely supplanted him as a top 3 dynasty guy in startups right now, and I think that it's kind of crazy to me. Justin Herbert had broken ribs for like 8 games last year and was still a top 12 quarterback, which is crazy. He had no wide receivers for about half the year, like nobody to throw to. So it's hard for me to dock him when he was still playing extremely well with broken ribs, and now he's got someone like Kellen Moore calling plays for him. And while I don't think Kellen Moore is very good for fantasy purposes, he is pretty good for the quarterback. Dak was always very, very good under him. I think the weapons are a little bit sketchier under Kellen Moore. I don't trust anyone to be. He's kind of like the Kyle Shanahan, where it's game plan specific. Where this game we're just not going to use our alpha wide receiver. And it's like, you don't have to be this cute. You don't have to be this cute. Just throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb. But it's just, that's the problem I have with Kellen Moore. He's going to be very good for Justin Herbert. He's going to create openings for all of these guys. And, when Justin Herbert as a rookie comes out and his quarterback number 9 as a rookie in 15 games, that is wild to me. And then in year number 2, he had a number 2 overall finish. And then this last year was a massive drop off in his production. And again, no Keenan Allen for, I think, 11 weeks. He lost Mike Williams for a stretch of time as well. I'm just pulling it up. Mike Williams played in 13 games, but, one of those games he had 9% of snaps. Another one, 60%, 30%. So, in reality, he missed him for 7 games as well. And then, you can't just do everything with Austin Eckler and Josh Palmer. So, it kind of stinks for that part. And then he had the broken ribs on top of it. So I am expecting a massive bounce back from Justin Herbert this year. And I think that's why he deserves to be up here still. I do believe he has the ceiling. We've seen it already of quarterback number 2. And I think that this offense is going to be extremely good. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree with all of what you said. I do see if Austin Eckler's on the team, I do see a little bit of a touchdown regression from him on the rushing side, because he did have 13 touchdowns last year.
I know.
So and compared to Herbert only having 25 through the air, and he did fumble a little bit more, and he was injured. But I think the biggest thing I worry about are his wide receivers, other than Austin Eckler.
Sure.
Because Keenan Allen's still there, Mike Williams is still there, and those guys are injury prone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think they're going to bring somebody in through the draft, whether it's in the first round. I feel they're going to spend a high.
I don't think it'll be first round, but I think it'll definitely be a day 2 pick for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they get like a Dalton Kincaid or like a Zay Flowers or
Michael Mayer. Like I could see him going for tight end.
Michael Mayer.
Yeah, or Kincaid or somebody like you're saying. Like I could see, or Darnell Washington. Ooh, baby, let's go.
Yeah. So, I can see all of that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I can see all of that, but I think he's still going to be a top 10 quarterback every week, but that's what I'm worried about is that his weapons are getting a little older, they're more injury prone, and they're running everybody back, maybe except Austin Eckler, but
sure.
I feel that was a benefit to some of Herbert's game, was just dumping it off to Herbert or to Eckler every now and again.
Right, and then he busts off a massive run and everything.
Exactly.
No, I'm with you there. I'm definitely with you. I think that the Austin Eckler thing is going to work itself out. They're probably going to, after the draft, everything gets kind of settled up, they're going to look at what they have left available in salary cap and say, all right, here you go. We're going to, give you an extra $5 million or whatever in incentives or something. They're going to do right by him, but they're just not going to do it right now. You know what I mean? And that's where I think it's all going to work itself out. But I do understand where Austin Eckler is coming from. He scored 40 touchdowns in 2 years. Dude deserves to be paid a little bit higher. Just say it. 100%. Just say it. So, no, but Justin Herbert, still a very good player. Now, I want to talk about Jalen Hurts quickly here. We both agree that he's up here. The scariest thing about this is the fact that, the last 2 seasons, he's finished as a top 10 as a quarterback, fantasy quarterback. He's had 10 rushing touchdowns and then 13 rushing touchdowns. That is terrifying because you look at his passing game, and I get it. A.J. Brown has definitely helped. They lose Shane Steichen, who supposedly was the mastermind behind this offense, basically since 2021. That went under the radar. I guess nobody really knew that he was calling the plays in 2021 as well. which is pretty wild to me that nobody knew that whatsoever. Um, the fact that he only had, I mean, combined through 2 years, he's got 6,800 yards. Patrick Mahomes had 5,200 just last year. You know, he doesn't have an elite arm when it comes to throwing the football yet. And, you know, it's definitely in development. He's gotten a lot better. I don't want to take that away from him whatsoever. I still like Jalen Hurts a lot. I think he has a lot of potential. But for fantasy football, when we have 700 yards on the ground, which is great, there's a lot of rumors of them taking Bijan. And if that happens, there's no way this rushing production is going to keep up. There's no way. Either Bijan's going to be bad or Jalen Hurts is going to be bad. And that's where it does scare me. Jalen Hurts is the riskiest of these top guys, in my opinion, but he has definitely done enough to deserve this ranking, if you will.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts supporter, but I understand fantasy values a lot different than how we scout NFL talent, I guess you could
Right.
say. He's never had the biggest arm. He's okay at decision making. He's not the best decision maker, but he is that leader that Philadelphia has needed. So, I think he's a very stable quarterback, at least for this year, but I think going forward, it could be very interesting to see kind of what happens and to see what happens with him being in a contract year this year. It's going to be extremely interesting if he stays with Philadelphia or if he goes elsewhere to kind of chase some money or what kind of happens.
Yeah, I think they're going to pay him a lot. I think
A
Howie's
lot of money.
making sure of it,
A
but
lot of money.
I'm happy for Jalen Hurts. I really am. Being a second round pick, I was hoping he'd go to the Patriots, and things have worked out for him. He's been in the Super Bowl now, so he'll be back. I do believe he'll be back at some point. So, all right, now let's talk about your boy Joe Burrow. Why you have him up above these guys, and I'll kind of talk about why I have him at 5. So, why do you like him so much more than like a Jalen Hurts, a Justin Herbert, even Fields and Lawrence?
I feel week to week he's more steady
Okay.
than Jalen Hurts can be. It's for instance, like I think Burrow had a little over 600 pass attempts, and then Hurts had about
460.
460. So that's 150 more
Yes.
passing
Yep.
attempts.
Yep.
So passing wise, he's going to outperform him, and plus I feel he has a better set of weapons in the wide receiver game. I really do love AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, but they aren't T Higgins and Jamar Chase
Agree with
by
that 100%.
any means.
Here's what worries me a little bit personally. What if they lose T Higgins?
Right. No, and I definitely see that, but I still think in the dynasty world, I would rather I feel safer with Joe Burrow than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is more of a rushing quarterback, and I feel that has a greater potential risk of injury compared to Joe Burrow being I guess, a prototypical passer.
Sure. Yeah.
And stuff like that. So
Right.
that's where I feel a little bit more comfortable putting Burrow there compared to Hurts.
Okay.
I think that's I feel that's more my thing. And it's kind of going off what I said earlier. I'm not the biggest Hurts supporter, and I think the wheels are going to fall off a lot quicker than they do with Joe Burrow.
Fair enough. And that's where, again, I do agree that Hurts is risky, right? 23 rushing touchdowns for fantasy football is going to be huge, right? That's going to definitely float you up there. Joe Burrow last year was the quarterback number 4. The year before was quarterback number 7. The year before was his rookie year, injury, blah, blah, blah. 25. Still not bad for 10 games, almost a QB2 that year through 10 games. But yeah, I do agree with you that Joe Burrow is safe. I do believe that Joe Burrow is not an elite athlete. He reminds me so much of Tom Brady. It's insane because, if Tom Brady was the number 1 overall pick, right? But
right.
Joe Burrow just has that mentality. It's like you can never count him out, like
Yes.
ever. And I get it. There's the everyone likes to clown on the head coach. He's not the best head coach in the world, but he's still pretty good. And him and Joe Burrow are a good combination. Like they do help each other out. Now, Joe Burrow does have great weapons right now. Joe Mixon, we talked about him a little bit with the Dynasty trade market episode. Go check out my thoughts on Joe Mixon there. But the TLDW, I think that's what it is. Too long, didn't watch. Joe Mixon is a good player. There's a very good chance that he might not be on the team, but if he's not, they're going to replace him with a Jahmyr Gibbs or somebody like that. So I'm not too worried about that whatsoever. T. Higgins, they're going to try and probably keep him, but they did bring in Irv Smith on the cheap. I love that. I do think that Irv Smith is a good player, just kind of unlucky so far
As
in
long
his
as he
career.
stays healthy,
I know,
yes.
man. And it's
Is the
like,
biggest.
I feel so bad for Irv Smith too, because everything he's done has been, like, all of his injuries have been freak injuries, right? It's his hand, it's he like broke a toe in his foot, and it's just like, it's not hamstrings or ACLs or an Achilles. It's not none of those ones that scare you because they can recur, right? It's just freak injuries for Irv Smith that have not let him be healthy. But when he's played, man, he has been productive for football's sake, right? And there's no competition here whatsoever at the tight end position for him to worry about unless they take someone at the end of the first round. They're very heavily linked to Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer or some of these other guys. But yeah, I do worry a little bit because Jamar Chase's contract is coming up. Joe Burrow's contract is coming up. T. Higgins, they have to pay him as well. I think he's the same draft class as Joe Burrow, right? So just not a first round pick. So they don't have the 5th year option. But yeah, it's going to be tough to pay all these guys and keep it all together. So I don't know if it's going to be possible. But for now, T. Higgins is still there, and even when he walks, maybe next year they could replace T. Higgins with Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, you never know.
Right.
So, no, I'm definitely with you. I do agree that Joe Burrow is extremely safe. When you can finish as the quarterback number 4 with 200 rushing yards, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. So that's why I'm a little bit down on him. I do believe that the ceiling for Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts is both above him. Again, we've seen it from both of these guys at this point in time. But stability-wise, I do believe Joe Burrow is probably the safest out of all 3 of these. That's why I do have Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow all in one tier together, where it's kind of pick your poison there. They all kind of offer something different. But for me personally, I'd probably have Herbert as the number 3, but I do believe that the upside of Jalen Hurts right now in Dynasty football is worth number 3. Long term, 5 years from now, I think Herbert will probably be better, but we can't go 5 years into the future with these rankings, right? We have no idea what's going to happen. So now let's talk about the last ones here, your last tier here. Yeah. A little bit different, and you're going pretty heavy on the young guys, Lawrence and Fields. What are your thoughts there? You got them over some pretty big names. For example, I've got Lamar Jackson here, but you've got Watson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray. Why do you got these guys so much higher than those guys?
Well, I would say first things first. I love Justin Fields so much. I don't
Homer.
know. I know, and I will own that, and that's okay. But I think
fair enough.
Their offense is going to be a lot different than what it was this last year because their team as a whole was garbage, to say the least. Justin Fields was running for his life 99% of the time, and that's why he had so many rushing yards. I know there's a trope people keep throwing out that he's this rushing quarterback, but he was more of a thrower coming out of college. And I think with him getting DJ Moore, like an actual wide receiver there, as compared to, instead of having the one being Mooney or Claypool, I think he has more of a chance throwing better and throwing a lot more passes than what he did last year. Like he threw 318 passes, which is far less than what Jalen Hurts threw.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts was terrible with 460 and
yes. So, I feel Justin Fields really exploded, towards the middle of the season, and that's when it's their coaching staff figured out, he can actually play. He's more of an athlete than, I mean, I feel he is a quarterback, but he's more athletic than what the typical passer would be. So I'm very excited about him this year. I think he's going to take the next step, and that's why I put him so high. I feel he's going to have that some rushing floor. I don't think it's up to like Lamar Jackson standards by any means, but I feel it's a probably a 600-700 yard year, which is pretty good in fantasy. I think he's going to throw for a lot more yards, definitely a lot more touchdowns. I think he had 17 touchdowns and 11 picks. I really think the touchdowns are going to go up, and that's more what I see is that his passing yardage is going to go up, and his touchdowns are going to go up, and I feel that's going to more offset some of the rushing that's going to go down. And plus, I just love Justin Fields, and if I could rank him higher, I would, but I think that would be a little bit far fetched. So that's why I have him there at 5.
All right, and then what are your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence?
I feel it's kind of the same for Trevor Lawrence. I kind of feel Lawrence is a year ahead of Fields in that things started to click a little bit better and
Sure.
and click more. Like he actually has an offensive mind down there in Jacksonville with Doug Peterson.
Right.
Like he
Former
has a
quarterback coach, too. I mean,
yes,
he's just
yes, a
he is
former quarterback
actually,
coach.
I know a lot of people are quarterback whisperers, but Peterson does actually seem to be an amazing quarterback whisperer.
100%. So, I feel Lawrence is going to be that guy that like he was drafted to be. Like he was quarterback 8 last year. Like he had very similar, attempts as a Joe Burrow. It was kind of up there. So,
Sure.
I feel he's a safe-ish quarterback. I don't think he's to the Burrow status by any means, but
Right.
like I feel he has very good weapons and fairly young weapons down there that he's able to use.
And he's
Use and
getting
abuse,
Calvin
I guess.
Ridley back. Yeah, it's going to
Yeah,
be,
yes. He has Calvin Ridley. He has Travis Etienne. He has Ingram,
yeah,
and
Christian Kirk, Zay
yeah,
Jones.
yeah,
It's a good
yeah.
group. It is definitely a good
Yes,
group down
yes.
there.
It's a very, very solid group, and I really think that group's going to be there for the next couple years, especially. So, I'm very excited about his future and what he's gonna do down there in Duval County.
Sure. My biggest problem with him so far is just that once he plays like a pretty decent defense, except for Houston, he's just terrible against Houston every time he
Yeah,
plays them. I don't know why. That's just a mental block, I guess. But he played pretty poorly against Washington, for example, week 1. That was week 1 last year, so it could have been better. But Philly kind
mhm,
of wrecked him as well. So the Denver Broncos still had a really good defense last year.
sure.
So he just underperforms a little bit there, but
Yeah,
not terrible. Definitely a good quarterback. And we'll get my thoughts on him here in the next episode, more than likely. I don't want to spoil
yeah,
it. But yeah, on both of these guys, I'm very high on them, but I just think that there's a little bit left to prove there. And, that's where it gets interesting. It is crazy to me that that Justin Fields finished as quarterback number 7 last year while having a terrible passing performance. He was basically a running
yes,
back, which is just wild. But no,
that's
we'll
what he
talk about my last guy here, Lamar Jackson with who knows, Baltimore Ravens, maybe, probably more than likely the Indianapolis Colts, which would
yeah,
not be terrible. Pairing
no,
with
it would
Shane
not.
Steichen, Jonathan Taylor could be pretty good there. Now, Lamar Jackson is a stud. You look at what he was able to do. He finished as the quarterback 14 last year, playing 12 games. 15 the year before, playing 12 games. It's just, the dude is so good, and his rushing is just unparalleled. Everyone wants Justin Fields to be Lamar Jackson, right? That's who you're kind of picturing when you're talking about it. Lamar Jackson has never been a good quarterback through the air. His highest passing yardage season is 3,100 yards, and that was his sophomore season 4 years ago. It's crazy how little they've passed the last few years, but Baltimore has not been able to get a receiver to save their life. They get Hollywood Brown, he wants a trade. They get Rashad Bateman, he gets injured. It's just they have not been able to get a consistent wide receiver for the team for a while now. If he were to go to somewhere like Indianapolis, Pittman, Alec Pierce, it's not a terrible group of guys, but maybe they get a DeAndre Hopkins over there as well. And all of a sudden, you're kind of cooking with gas a little bit here. So it's interesting. We'll see where he ultimately ends up. But I just think that when this guy plays, man, you look at his game logs and it's just crazy. 20 points, 44, 40, 13, 14, 16, 10, 22, 18. The dude just has an elite ceiling. And that's why I have to continue to rank him up here. He's done nothing yet. I know he's been banged up. But last year, you're telling me if he didn't have a massive contract, he doesn't come back at the end of that season? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Right.
He's playing on the franchise tag now. No long-term extension. I don't know. That's just all I'm saying. So we'll see what he can do. I don't think that the injury is going to linger. There's no real reason to think that. So I do believe he's going to be on a new team. We just don't know where yet. But if anybody's trading for him, they're going to be investing in this guy long-term to a long-term contract. So Lamar Jackson should be just fine. So I'm not worried about the age. He's still only 26 years old. Once he gets closer to like 30 as a rushing quarterback, I might start to fade him a little bit more then. But for now, he's in his prime. Just let him cook, right? So That's the last of my guys there. Any last major observations on the top 6?
No, I mean, I honestly feel I feel it's a lot easier to kind of grade these guys 1 through, like the guys we have like 1 through 12 than it is 13 through 24, because these guys are more of the elite guys, and I feel we're really kind of splitting hairs between a lot of them personally.
I split a lot of hairs later, but it was just why I hated one guy less.
Exactly. So, and that's how I feel about it. It's lower you go down, like you just hate these players more and more and more. It's compared to these upper echelon guys, like you would love to have any of these guys on your squad. So
right. So I like it. I like it a lot. That said, thank you guys for joining us. Please be sure to follow us on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Leave us a review, leave us a comment, whatever it is. Leave us a thumbs up, anything, just to help with the algorithm. You can find us on Twitter again at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. I'm going to be back tomorrow with Dale talking about the 7 through 12, the last of our tier 1 quarterback rankings. And then we will figure out the rest of the week. We don't have it planned out just yet. We have to work around Dale's ghost schedule. So we'll see how that goes. But until then, thank you guys for joining us. Have a good night.